this is part of Runecast Back to School webinar series. So this is a series we're doing every 2 weeks on different topics. And today I'm just going to talk about, vSphere upgrades and ultimately what that means as far as preparation and, tips and tricks a little bit and about products that can help you in doing your discovery and ensuring that you're compatible prior to your upgrades. So my name is Wade Carlsen. I work at Runecast Solutions. I've been with Runecast a little over 4 years, but I have 30 plus years of experience in the industry. Um, Everything from, Windows Server administration and SE type of work in the beginning to the majority of my time in the IT industry has been focused on virtualization solutions and technologies, primarily VMware. I've worked for large companies in the past, and with that comes large footprint, large VMware environments, global presence, and infrastructure. So, a constant theme for us was always, upgrades and pending upgrades. And eventually, you always have to upgrade your environment. VMware stopped supporting the old releases and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to talk today a little bit about some of the gotchas that I ran into and experienced in the past. There's some newer types of functionality and interoperability things that VMware has come up with, and also with Runecast as far as a solution set that can really help you prepare for those upgrades and call out those things that you need to address. Um, so why are we really talking about this today? Well, if you think about a VMware environment, it holistically, and not just your host servers and what's running on them, but how everything integrates with that environment, downstream products and tools, upstream, side stream, however you want to put it. Everything is reliant upon compatibility. And if, obviously, if something isn't compatible, then you're going to have issues. And ultimately, those issues are going to lead to problems. And you usually only find those out when you attempt an upgrade, and so on and so forth. So this really, historically, this has all been a manual effort, right? And I know there's been strides and progress into trying to help in certain areas of calling these things out. And I'll touch on some of these things in a moment. But really, because it's, mostly manual, whether it's manual input of data, whether it's manual analyzing your configurations and matching them against, some sort of document, those types of things, it's human interaction. And as we all know, us as human beings, we do make mistakes, right? No matter how thorough we attempt to be, um, when there's so many moving pieces and parts, the likelihood of something being missed is pretty high. And that's kind of where my experience comes in. It just seems like there was always something missed, some minute detail or something that ultimately, wasn't up to date or wasn't configured appropriately, and those types of things that ended up causing us issues either during or after the upgrades. Some of the pain points that people can, I put in here common pain points that are common. I wouldn't say these are common, they don't happen all the time, but when things do go bad, these are the types of things that do go bad during or following a VMware upgrade. Hopefully, I think the chances are most of you in the audience have experienced some of these. I wish that wasn't the case, but I know I have. I personally have. And so, here are some of the common things that can go wrong when things do go wrong. You know, um, the biggest part of what would frustrate me, I guess, is when you're upgrading something that wasn't 100% healthy to begin with. You're just kind of moving that problem around, right? And we don't always know because, again, being human beings, and can I check 1,000 different configuration items on every system before I touch it? No, we have regular jobs and have responsibilities, and we can't do those things. Can we evaluate every document and see if anything's been written today as opposed to last month, and making sure I'm complying against best practices, and if I have any known issues in place. No. So and then it goes on to the incompatibilities of hardware, network and storage components. So really the incompatibilities with hardware, most things underneath that are related to, issues with your compatibilities with your hardware stack. Network and storage components losing connectivity, virtual machines not starting, virtual devices like your virtual networking, your distributed switching, things like that, storage volume, storage connectivity. One story I love to use a lot is a painful experience, but during an upgrade, just because after days and days of research and support and identification and experiencing downtime, we learned that we had a host or two that didn't have the correct driver and firmware combinations that was supported not connected to our storage volume. So during the upgrade, guess what? That dropped. We lost the storage volume. All the virtual machines running that storage array were down, and it becomes this firefighting exercise of trying to figure out really what's going on. And a lot of times those types of deep troubleshooting efforts can take days. And meanwhile, you're experiencing the problem. So that's always a risk. And then lost functionality. And this is one thing that I think as I don't know, not all of us, but I think sometimes, especially in larger environments where you have separate teams that handle separate products and support structures, and maybe you have a different storage team, maybe you have a different backup team that's separate from your VMware guys, right? We don't always take into account the products that are running. So the backup team may be using a backup solution that leverages snapshotting in your environment. Well, an ESXi version or a file system version change may affect that, right? You upgrade and then all of a sudden they can't do snapshotting and take backups of those types of things. Other things that we've experienced, or I have in the past, using Site Recovery Manager, right? It's leveraging and doing snapshots for disaster recovery and sharing storage, and those storage connectivity and actions and how they're presented are very, dependent upon versions being consistent and those types of things. So it's all these types of things that we don't always think about holistically. And that's just really the topic of this discussion today is, when you're preparing for the next upgrade, what are the steps that you can take to try to help assure that you don't, create any problems within the VMware environment or anything connecting to it, really is the best way to say it. So, and there's always, again, I'm going to touch on this a few times because it's a pain point for me, is you know pre-existing misconfigurations, right? Or pre-existing problems that we're just not aware of, and moving those around. And that's one thing that I always struggled with is, we had an existing problem, nobody knew about it, and we're just kind of moving that problem around, and it never gets solved, and then it rears its ugly head down the road, right, when it's most unexpected. So those types of things are main things that we really want to pay attention to. So that leads us to really, why we're here, and what we're wanting to talk about today is what is out there that can help, help you in the best way and take some of this extraneous manual effort off of your plate in trying to, discover your entire environment down to the nth degree of configuration, and look at certain things that are available to help you understand, compatibility, your interoperability of those other products, and so on and so forth. So what we have, of course, is Runecast Analyzer. That is the company I work for. We have, I don't, if you're not familiar with Runecast, it's really an overall solution to look at your entire landscape and show you, within a matter of minutes, show you where you have underlying configuration issues, security violations, where you're not complying against best practices from the vendor, known issue discovery, those types of things, to really to get a single pane of glass to look at and allow your configuration and your environment to become visible to you. And these types of areas that, again, we don't have time to really always stay on top of, Runecast Analyzer can, pinpoint those things to you. Everything from configuration drift and management to, cluster capacity and those types of things. Runecast Analyzer is kind of a, it's a holistic single solution to help you and give you visibility into all those, to align your compliance, whether that is security or your IT operations management. But Runecast Analyzer, as powerful as it is, it can't do everything, right? It's not something that can go out there and look at and see if you're running a third-party application that integrates with VMware and see if that's compatible or not. It's very good at going really deep in your VMware environment, and pointing out what you need to pay attention to in your ESXi host, the vSphere layer of your VMs, and things of that nature. But again, we can't, you know, it's tougher to build something in to look at everything, as far as, okay, here's a list of 3,000 different third-party apps, plug these in and see if they're compatible. That's a little beyond our scope to begin with, but almost impossible for a single product to do that. So here's a list of things that can help. And I do understand that, there's, VMware has Orchestrator. I know that Orchestrator's now been renamed to ARIA, or however you want to pronounce it. And I know that that leverages certain components and solutions that VMware has, like, Solution Designer. I have them listed here, their own compatibility guide and matrix, right? But what I want to call out here is particularly the interoperability matrix and the Solution Designer, because those are two pieces that Runecast is not able to cover. It's those downstream applications and different things that are out there. And VMware has these things that, it's a manual thing where you have to plug in what you're using and go through the process, and then it'll kick out results based on compatibility and those types of things. But ultimately, these are the things that are available to you depending on what you're running in your environment. And that's the key, because we don't know, VMware doesn't know what you're running, but they give you the ability to try to plug in what you are doing. Runecast performs many different activities. It's a single solution that covers everything, which is the topic of today. Your vulnerability management, your security compliance. I'm not going to read off every single one of these bullet points, but this is where I come from, of not moving a problem around, right? The best environment to upgrade is an existing healthy environment. Okay, that, I will always say that, to the end of days, just because of past experiences. But if you can go up and clean out your environment, or clean up your environment prior to an upgrade, it just elevates your chances of a successful upgrade. So with Runecast Analyzer, virtual appliance deployed in 15-20 minutes, click a button, and in a matter of minutes, you have results based on, thousands of different checks from the product against, known issue repositories, and sources of truth. And we're going to kick back out based on your configuration, where you need to pay attention, and where you have underlying configuration issues or vulnerabilities, where you might have some configuration drift, where things are changing over time that you weren't aware of, and those types of things. So, and on top of that, again, we have the HCL, or the hardware compatibility component and capability within our product, where you can immediately, in a matter of seconds, look at your configuration stack and your hardware stack, and we automatically, through our proprietary AI, match that against VMware's HCL. Okay, so we're going to show you against the current version you're running where you have items that you need to address, right? Whether you have a card installed in a server IO device that's not in support, or whether the driver firmware combination on that card is not in support, where a BIOS level on the server is not supported, all those types of things, we're going to call those out very quickly. And this is truly in a matter of minutes. On top of that, we build in the upgrade simulator. which is very key and important to this discussion, because you can walk through and look at your upgrade path. Sometimes we know our hardware's too old, that we can't go from 6, 7 to 8 immediately, right? Or something like that. Well, the way you understand that is either you go out and spend some time in VMware's HCL and use their matrix and come up with your own solution, or you click a button with Runecast Analyzer, it will simulate it for you and will show you exactly. So you can use Runecast as a lifecycle manager of your hardware stack, knowing and being alerted to if the server's supported, if the cards installed within it are supported. If they're not, then you can plan purchasing. If they are and might need it just attention, and where you can upgrade them, Runecast Analyzer to quickly call that out and show you. And with the theme of Runecast and the way it operates is every issue we ever identify, we provide you a resolution to it. Okay, so all this stuff, we're just not about finding problems and making you aware, and then you go off and figure out your own solution. We're always going to tell you either in black and white in text how to resolve it, or there's over 500 checks now that we do that will build you a script that will go out. You can download the script, go out, run it, and it'll resolve those issues automatically. So it saves you all that time and effort in coordinating those things and addressing those objects. So again, instead of moving the problem around, let's get a healthy environment first before we attempt upgrades. And, VMware SEs like myself, we don't always, security isn't always at our forefront. It's operations and making sure things are up and running, but security is always a big, a big place where we need to pay attention. So again, we don't want to be moving vulnerable systems around. They have common vulnerabilities and exposures, security risks, all these types of things. So you can use Runecast to analyze and scan your environments and fix those things prior to even attempting upgrade. So you're not upgrading the problem. And that's really the end result of what I wanted to cover in that. So with all that, explaining really what Runecast can provide, I do want to touch on some of the VMware products and tools that can be used as well. And again, from my perspective, if you have Runecast in your environment, this Runecast can complement whatever from VMware you might have, right? So whether that's vRealize Operations, Orchestrator, any of these types of things, VMware can complement those products, because we get a lot of questions about direct competition with those. And in our eyes, we're not a direct competitor, but we complement what those things are doing, because they do look at other things, interoperability outside of the, the direct vSphere stack. As an example, we do cover some of the things that the VMware products do, like the HCL check, but again, it's all automatic, it's all immediate, and those types of things. And the simulator is something special that is built into the product as well. So, however, VMware does have a plethora of documentation. We all know that. So via their docs, their white papers, all these types of things, you can go in, and this is just an example of their VMware compatibility guide. This is out there, it's available. If you want to spend time, it's absolutely, usable. But again, this, you're plugging in configurations of your entire environment. You may not have clusters that look the same. You may have, hosts that are off a little bit. You may not know exactly the BIOS firmware driver versions off the top of your head to plug in and those types of things. It just becomes more of a manual effort. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. I'm sure almost everybody that's in this call is familiar with this. And quite honestly, this can become painful, and it can become a huge overhead, and those types of things. So but it is there. I absolutely want to ensure everybody knows that. But this is the biggest piece, again, that Runecast can't cover, is the interoperability matrix. So with this, you can go in and plug in different solutions, right? So, this is just a screenshot, but you can plug in, okay, I want to upgrade my environment to 8, and then go down and start plugging in different products within it, and then click a button, and VMware will tell you if it's compatible with that version of ESXi or not. Okay, so that's the interoperability matrix. And then with Solution Designer, very similar. They give a couple of, you can download this, it kind of runs as its own application. But again, I think this is most valuable for the interoperability, and then the solution manager itself. So you can plug in those different applications that aren't even VMware, third-party apps. Again, you might have a backup solution that leverages backups, right? VMware didn't write it, somebody else wrote it. You can plug it in here. And of course, if VMware's aware of it and it's built into the solution designer, then it can kick out and give you results on, if these things are going to play together well or not, post upgrade. And so those types of things are available. Again, it's all about preparation and planning. The and taking as much of that out of the human equation as possible. And I know, personally, we've all probably been tired of hearing the AI, all this and that, but there are places for it. I'm very old school in my thinking, and it's like a computer can't replace me type of mentality. But I also realize that I am a human being, and I do make mistakes where I might get exhausted in my research and documentation. Artificial intelligence is not going to get tired, right? It's going to keep chugging. It's going to do what it is written to do and perform those activities and tasks that we simply don't want to do. And that's what it boils down to. So Runecast Analyzer for pretty much everything top down in the vSphere part of the environment. Interoperability matrix for those other solutions hanging off, whether they're written by VMware, and the solution designer for anything that might be not written by VMware third-party apps. So make use of those prior to your next upgrade, and just keep upping the percentage of feasibility and your success rate ultimately and during your next upgrade. And ultimately everybody will be much happier. I know that for sure. So with that, I know that's a quick down and dirty, hopefully you didn't join this thinking I'm going to give you, step by step, here's how you upgrade your environment upcoming. I can't do that. Everybody's environment's custom. Everybody runs different things. But I just really wanted to get everybody grounded, thinking about that next upgrade, and really, everything that might be possible that you need to think about that you may not have been thinking about prior. So with that being said, I'll pause for a moment and stop for the Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions, now is your time. While we're waiting on questions, I do want to highlight that Runecast, for the first time, we launched this at VMware Explore 2 weeks ago. We're offering a 14-day unlimited license. So here's a link to that to get registered. We highly encourage you to do that. It's the first time, I've been with the company over 4 years. It's the first time I've seen them give unlimited license. So what that means is it's a full access license to the product. You get it for 2 weeks. You cover as much of your environment as you want, and you can see what Runecast can do for you. So no obligation. You just sign up for it. We would touch base with you essentially only to understand the number of licenses that you want to cover and when you want that trial to start. So it doesn't start immediately when you register, because not everybody's ready to test a product, right away. So make sure you're aware of that and do make use of it. Like I say, I've never seen, normally we give a trial license, which will show you about 30% of the results that Runecast will find. And this is a full thing. So you can see every security vulnerability, your hardware stack, play with the upgrade simulator, all you want. And everything that is available in the product will be available to you in that trial.
Okay, let's go to the questions. The anonymous attendee asks, what is the product licensing / purchase model?
Yeah, absolutely. And for VMware specifically, and I say that because we cover cloud services as well, but we leverage VMware's old licensing model where we license by the physical CPU socket of your host. So if you're running dual socket hosts, that's 2 Runecast licenses per host. So that's how it's
All right.
licensed.
Thank you. Oliver asks, does Runecast have a plugin to see the graphic user interface inside vCenter?
Yes, it does. We do have a vCenter plugin, which, yeah, allows you essentially to see the Runecast findings right there within vCenter, because we know that's where you're spending the majority of your time. So we do have a plugin for that. We also have a ServiceNow plugin. So I know that question wasn't asked, but we're talking integration. So if you're running ServiceNow in your environment, Runecast can leverage and generate tickets in ServiceNow based on Runecast findings. And that's highly customizable. You can change priority levels and descriptions and all that type of stuff. But it's pretty slick.
Thank you. And Seamus commented, I have been using Skyline for some of these tasks. So wait, do you maybe know how we stand compared to Skyline?
Yeah, absolutely. My quickest answer is we go deeper and broader than Skyline. We are analyzing your configuration and giving you results and remediation steps for your environment. And I do know Skyline, will analyze, and they'll, it's more high level as far as majority of people experience this problem with this configuration. And that's really the difference. We're looking at your specific configuration. Runecast doesn't know about somebody else's configuration. So we're not showing you the top 10 issues most people face. We're showing you the issues you're facing. So that's probably the quickest way to explain that one. Good questions, by the way.
Thank you. Oliver also asks, does Runecast only find known vulnerabilities or does it also help to remediate them?
Yeah, both. So regardless of finding that Runecast has, we will tell you how to resolve it. Okay. So that comes in 2 different manners. We'll either tell you in black and white in text the steps it takes to resolve it, or we're up to 500 plus items that we check for that we build a script for you, that will address all the objects that are being identified as having a configuration issue. So you just download the script and go run it, whether it's Ansible Playbook or Power CLI.
Okay, and I'll reply to Modita. Yes, we will send you the recording of this session, and later on it will be also available on YouTube.
Thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciate this, and it looks like we got a good turnout today, so that makes me happy, and knowing that the topic is of importance. So thank you all for taking the time.